Friends, Kris here with another Prism. Thank you for being with us. It's Sunday. And yesterday we talked about stinking thinking. Today we're going to talk about sinking thinking. I've got my grandchildren behind me. They're Jasmine's the eldest. And Grandpa ought to have a right to be able to brag on his grandkids, don't you think? Okay, we're talking this week about the mind. You have the mind of Christ, 1 Corinthians 2 and 16. And today, how do I overcome sinking thinking? Have you ever felt that sinking feeling? Well, Peter did. He got out of the boat. He was doing wonderfully and getting towards Jesus, walking on top of the water. What a miracle. Until it says in Matthew 14 and verse 30, that when he saw the wind boisterous, he began to sink and cried out, "Lord, save me." You know, that's the shortest prayer in the Bible, just 3 words. Lord, save me. But it's a prayer that every one of us in our chaos and in our darkness and our sin have had to pray, Lord, save me. And sure enough, Jesus caught him by the hand and picked him up. And he actually did not sink because Jesus will not allow one of his people to sink. But for a text today, listen to Isaiah 26 and verse 3. And this is another verse about the mind that every believer needs to memorize. You will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. How do I remain in perfect peace? Well, it all has to do with focus. Keeping your eyes fixed on the prize of the high calling of God in Christ. Hebrews 12 and 2 says, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. Where you're looking, where you're focused is very important. Now notice this. When Peter saw the wind, what does wind look like? Somebody says, well, that's dust flying. No, you're looking at dust. What does wind look like? Well, that's when a banner or a flag is waving and flapping. No, you're looking at a flag. What does wind look like? Fact of the matter is, wind is illusory. It's a phantasm. It's invisible. It's spiritual. It's not something that you can actually see. It's feelings oriented. You feel the wind, but you don't see the wind. And whenever a believer starts operating on feeling rather than on faith, and operating on voices that he hears out of the side of his head, you see, the devil's real good at posing distractions. I call them the noise of the negatives. They're always coming up from the sides, and the purpose is to seek to draw you away or distract your mind from faith in Jesus. What happens when you do that? You look this way and that way. And James 1 and 8, talking about the mind again, says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. When the water or when the concrete turns back into water and you begin to sink, that is instability, right? The Greek word there in James is diasukos, or two psyches, literally Siamese twins in your head, spiritual schizophrenia, we could say. And that draws you away from Christ. You got to stay single-minded with your focus on Christ. And then in Matthew, where it says he saw the wind, the Greek word for wind there is animos, A-N-E-M-O-S. We'd get the Japanese word anime from the same thing. Cartoon figures were being shot on the screen of his mind. Animos, we get the word animal, angst, animation, anger. All of those things come from this word, speaking of the hostility of the wind. And so when Peter started listening to the anger, the angst, the animation that was playing in the side view of his mind, he lost focus on Jesus and began to sink. And Jesus said, "Wherefore didst thou doubt?" Now, that word is diastasis, 2 states, 2 stands. You can't take 2 stands. You have to pick one, choose Christ, fill your mind with Him, and everything will change. Now, today's Sunday. I think this ought to be offering day. I've put a lot of effort into these videos, and I'd like to hear back from you. If you want to learn about the mind, I have written a 513-page commentary on the book of Psalms. I call it the psychology of the Psalms. It's really inexpensive. You can go to my website, KRISChrisjackson.org. Look up books under merchandise. You can find Give Yourself a Good Talking To. And then this book about the mind, about human psychology, the roller coaster ride of the life of King David, his ups and downs, when you go to KRISJackson.org. God bless you. Tune in tomorrow as we continue, or we may even start a new theme tomorrow on Monday. But God bless you till then.